My name is Jenna Boyd. I am one of the original West End actors in Come From Away, playing the part of Beulah and others. I have been a professional actress for, what year is it? 2021. 21 years, obviously, COVID aside. And I've done all kinds of things, but musical theatre will always have my heart and soul.
When did you first?
One of my dogs there.
Oh, he's so cute.
One there, and the other one's there.
Oh, adorable.
So I apologise if the doorbell goes because I'll start barking.
It's okay, not a problem at all. When did you first hear about Come From Away musical?
The first time I heard about Come From Away was when my agent called me to tell me that I had an audition for it. And I remember saying to my husband that evening, yeah, I've got an audition for like Far From Away, Come Back Home or something. I couldn't remember the title. It was like some weird title. It doesn't like come from, like, couldn't remember it. That was the first time I'd ever heard of it. And obviously, did a bit of research and was like, wow, how have I missed this? But yeah, that was the first time. So April 2018 was the first time I'd heard about Come From Away.
What do you remember about your audition?
I remember it very well. I remember, so I had the first round where I met Ian, the musical supervisor, where they'd asked us to bring in like a folk or a pop song. And I only have one pop song. Nobody Does It Better. It's a Bond song. And I'll try and make that work for any sort of style that isn't musical theatre. And I said I brought that, and he was like, yeah, that's not really appropriate. Knowing the show, I'm like, it's so not appropriate. And he asked me if I'd got anything else, and I always have my audition folder with me. So they had me sing the last half of, what is that song called? Meadowlark, which is a very long song. And he said, thank you very much. And off I went. And then I got recalled, and they sent me some material. They sent me Bonnie material. And I went in and I did that. I loved Bonnie. And that was the part that Mary knows this, but I mean, and obviously, Mary is amazing, which is why I didn't get it. Bonnie was always the part that I wanted because I thought the dialogue was brilliant, because obviously I'm crazy about animals, so that worked really well for me. After I went in and did that recall, the casting director came outside and said they want to see you again. They're going to give you some more material. So they gave me Diane material and they gave me Beulah material. And I'd seen the breakdown and the casting breakdown when they send it out. It was like Bonnie's 30s to 40s, Diane 40s to 50s, and Beulah 50s to 60s. And I thought, well, obviously I'm not going to get that because I'm not 50. And I thought they were looking at me for a standby, which would have been amazing. I'd have been beside myself to be a standby in that show. So I went away and looked at the material. And when I came back for my final audition, I did the Diane stuff first. And I remember very clearly singing the song and there being this weird, uncomfortable silence after I finished. And I was like, obviously they didn't like that. That's not for me. They're not interested at all in me for Diane. Then we did a lot of work on the Bonnie stuff. And the only stuff for Beulah that they sent me was the joke. So I didn't know anything about the character really. And because the material was so good, and it was, I knew it was how big it was on Broadway and how amazing it was going to be in the West End, I didn't listen to the soundtrack and I didn't read the script. So I had no idea about this part of Beulah, old lady, like old lady part. I don't want it. And I thought the joke was funny, and I did the joke. And when they offered me the role of Beulah, I was like, wow, amazing. Okay, old. And that night I got the job. It was a Friday. My agent called me and I was in Salisbury doing a play. And after the play finished, I went back to my digs and I read the script for the first time and realized how amazing the role of Beulah was and how lucky. I couldn't believe it. It was the first time I'd read the script crying, sobbing, thought it was sad. It was so sad. I still hadn't listened to the soundtrack. On the Saturday night, I was driving home from Salisbury, had the soundtrack on in the car, bawling my eyes out. I thought, you have to pull over. You need to get yourself together because you don't want to crash before you get a chance to do it. And I made my husband listen to it on the Sunday, and I said, I cannot believe I am going to get to sing this score. I couldn't believe it. So that is my audition story.
Wow, that sounds amazing.
Was.
And what was it like learning all the choreography and harmonies?
Hard. The harmonies are fine. That's all fine. We spend the week doing it at the beginning of the rehearsal process, and that's always my favorite week when we just learn the songs, we sit and we sing, and it's lovely, and we get to really work on all of the fine detail. That's always my favorite bit. And then the choreography, the chairography, well, that was harder. I do remember I can't remember, it was Rachel or Kiara said that they were just, I think it was Rachel, they were just the worst wife, getting home from work and just literally being like that. Like brain fried, flatlining, just exhausted, never been so tired, and brain working so hard to try and remember it all. Which even now seems like a lifetime ago and seems like an impossible task, but we did it. We have to do it all over again. Excuse me. I'm boring myself. We'll have to do it all over again when we go back to rehearsals, because Lord knows, honey, I can't remember it at all.
When are you going back?
We've had our return. Our first show is on the 22nd of July.
Wow.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah, that's exciting. Can you tell me, if it's not a secret, when the rehearsals are supposed to start?
We start rehearsals at the beginning of July, so we've got a couple of weeks, which will be fine, because if you think about it, we have 4 weeks rehearsals. When we originally do the piece, we had 4 weeks in London. The first week was taken up with music anyway, so that leaves 3 weeks. Then we did some table work for 4 days, I think. So we really only had 2 weeks and 2 days to learn it originally. So knowing that somewhere in the back of my mind, I know some stuff still, hopefully 2 weeks will be great. And also we're doing the rehearsals in situ with the set and everything. So I think it will just make it easier.
Oh, that's exciting.
It's very exciting.
How did you hear about the pandemic and that the theaters are closing? Do you remember what was it like?
Yeah, it was horrible. So you sort of start to hear it on the grapevine coming over, like this terrible, like flu type illness happening over in the Far East, and you're like, oh, it's weird, stuff's going on. And then it sort of started to drip, and then you heard it was Italy. Italy, I think, was the first time or certainly the first time I started to go, what's happening here? What's this? And that's very close to us. And then it arrived in England at the end of February, beginning of March. And I remember the Friday before we closed, so what would it have been? 16th, 15th, 14th, the 3rd. Was it Friday the 13th of March? I have to Google that now, because not Google it, but check. I think it was. I'm going last year. March, yes. So Friday the 13th of March. I remember it was now very very focused on the news. It was everywhere. And I spent the entire day watching the news and got myself into what can only be described as a heightened state of hysteria. Because I have asthma, and because of the medication I take for my asthma, they kept saying, there are vulnerable people in our society. If they catch it, they will die. By the time I got to work on Friday, I was genuinely frightened for my life. Which now I feel so silly, but I was genuinely frightened. And I remember not wanting to come on stage with everybody during warm-up. I didn't want to hug anyone. I didn't want anyone to touch me. I remember talking to my company manager and being hysterical because I I can't say it like clearly enough. I genuinely thought my life was in danger. And I couldn't believe we were still going to work. I couldn't believe this was still happening. It all felt very, very crazy to me. We had our producer come in Saturday and say, look, you know, we will take steps to make you feel safer. It spoke to us as a group. And I was like, okay, this is fine. And, you know, cleaning stuff and everything being cleaned. And they really did take care of us. Monday comes along, coming to work. And I remember it being quiet on the tube on the way in. I remember that. On the tube, on the train, sorry. And I am the Equity Dep. Equity is our union, the union dep for our show. And I started to get text messages from people saying, because of the Boris Johnson at 6:00 saying we advise you not to go to the theatre, people's shows weren't being performed that night. And then just before the half, about 7:00, we got a call to come down to stage, full company, which I've said this before, either means that you're getting an award or you're closing. and we'd not got an award, so it wasn't good. And we walked onto the stage, and there was our lovely producer, John, absolutely ashen. He was the colour of this wall behind me. He was grey. And he said, because of the announcement made by the government, Come From Way is closed as of now. And even though on the Friday I'd been like, why are we coming to work? I'd never expected us to close. The word close wasn't a thing. It was more like cancelled. The show would be cancelled, you know, as in this evening's performance will be cancelled. We'll cancel the show for a period of time, then we'll come back. But it wasn't. We closed the show. Like, our company manager said, we don't know when we'll be back in the theatre, so take some stuff, you know, take the stuff that you need. And I went back to my dressing room and I was like, I don't know what to take. So I took my Come From Away hoodie and the Christmas moose, Teddy, because I couldn't stand the thought of him being there by himself. And I went home. And by the time I got home, it had occurred to me something that one of the producers had said when he'd come in on Saturday. If we close, it won't be for a couple of weeks. And I hadn't really given much thought to that until I was on this journey home. And I knew it wasn't cancelled anymore, it was closing. We had closed. And I was like, this is really bad. This is really bad. And all of a sudden his words had a lot of weight. Like, it's not going to be a couple of weeks. And if it's not going to be a couple of weeks, then it won't be a couple of months. And I quite genuinely thought it wouldn't be till September. And then by the April, I knew it wouldn't be September. I knew, absolutely knew it wasn't going to be that. Possibly Christmas, but I thought it would be this year. So it's never been a surprise to me, but I thought it would be Easter this year. So the fact that it's not until July, that's the only shocking bit for me. But it was hard, really hard.
Oh, that's horrible. I can't even imagine.
Yeah, it's really, really hard. But there's light at the end of our tunnel now. Yay!
There are so many super fans of Come From Way in London. They send you messages to cheer you up, to show your support.
I will never, ever be able to thank these incredible people for this last 18 months. They, at a time where, on a personal level, I felt forgotten. I felt lost as to who I was. I don't know who I am without my job. My job is so much a part of who I am. That's the problem with being an actor. It's not just a job. It makes it for me anyway, it's part of your personality. It certainly defines me, I feel. And without it, I felt so lost and totally forgotten by our government, by the industry. It's been a very difficult year, but they have constantly messaged, they have retweeted stuff, they've talked about Come From Away this entire time. And that has kept my heart alive, it's kept my soul alive. And I will never, ever be able to tell them how grateful I am, or thank them enough for their support.
Oh, that sounds incredible. I have a question from Diane Davis.
What does she want?
Do you see any similarities between your personality and the personalities of your characters?
She knows full well that her and I are exactly the same. We're like the same person. Diane Davis and I are so similar. I spent a day with her once when we were doing interviews, and I remember thinking, gosh, when I walked into that audition, the panel must have gone, she's exactly like Diane Davis. She's exactly the same. We talk the same, we react the same. We had the best day. And I'd like to think that, you know, Beulah Cooper, she's a very nurturing lady, such a genuinely sweet and kind, very funny lady, actually, quite as well. I'd like to think that I had that sort of nurturing side from her as well. But yeah, Diane Davis and I are really similar. In fact, I remember Rachel Tucker looked at me. Diane said something in this interview, and Rachel looked at me as if to say, do you see the similarity? I was like, yeah, I see it. I see it. We're really similar. So she knows that's true.
What was it like to meet Dan for the first time?
Oh, it was amazing. It was so cool. She came with gifts as well. I got a really cute bag with a fish on it, and they make this chocolate over in Gander with the caramel inside. So nice, so good. So she came with gifts. So immediately she was like my favorite person. Certainly because it was chocolate. So it was fantastic. It was fantastic to meet her and Beulah for the first time. Ironically, Beulah told us a joke, and I can't remember it now, but it was very, very funny. And I thought, you see, this is why I tell this joke in the show, because that's what they do. They tell these brilliant story jokes. They're great. I can't really remember that joke now. It's something to do with play the what is it? The accordion. That's it. The joke's about an accordion. I promise you, I can't remember it. I need to show you something. Do you see that on the floor there?
Mm-hmm.
That's my Come From Away script.
Really?
Yes, it is. I got it out today. I'm missing pages. I'm missing pages from the costume party. But I got it out today. I was like, my God, these are my lines. Can't remember it. So yeah, the joke's about the accordion. Yeah, crazy. It was great meeting them. Lovely to spend some time with them.
What's your favorite Come From Away mishap?
It was when we sit on the buses for the first time, and Claude said, we've got the buses going. He's got this line, which is like, you know, there are buses taking people to this place and that place. Well, that's how he said it. He didn't say anything. He just kept doing this. And he forgot his lines. And eventually he said, there were so many places, so many crazy places you've never even heard of. And then sat down. And I'm usually really good at not corpsing. I had my cardigan as a shawl and literally was like, it would have been so much more interesting if I could find the line. He said, so got buses taking people to places, lots of places, so many crazy places you've never even heard of, and then sat down. I laughed for 3 days. I remember I laughed all the way through that show. Every time I went off, I laughed. And then the next day, got to the same bit and I laughed again. I can't explain to you how funny it was, but that's my favourite mishap. That was, and also there was once a situation where a chair didn't get set for the final plane. And we're all sitting down doing the plane, and lovely Rob, who plays Nick, had to walk over and pick up his chair and bring it back. That was quite funny.
Yes. Thank you so much for sharing. Is there anything you would like to talk about?
First, no, I'm fine. I just like answering your questions. I'd like to talk about the fact that I'm utterly terrified that I don't remember any of this. That's something that's quite scary, that I don't remember it. And I hope that it will just come back. That's my hope. Please, goodness. Yeah, that's my hope.
Don't worry.
I'll try not to worry. I will try not to worry. Seriously, it's like that line has disappeared out of this script. I'll have to look for it later. It'll drive me crazy. It's been so lovely talking to you, though. I'm glad we got to do this.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the fact that you made time despite your schedule and everything.
This has been nice to sit down and have a little chat about Come From Away.
Thank you. It means a lot.
I love your t-shirt, by the way.
Oh, John Brown gave it to me. Thank you.
My pleasure. My pleasure. It was lovely to chat with you. Take care.
Bye.